Hello everybody. That morning, April 21st, 2025. The sun had not fully risen above the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, but the bells tolled softly, long and heavy, like a sign of mourning hanging in the air of Rome. The news spread like fog blanketing Italy. Pope Francis had passed away. At the age of 88, the supreme leader of the Catholic Church took his final breath in the place that had long been his spiritual home, the Vatican. Suddenly, the world paused for a moment. In the streets of Rome, the sound of vehicles seemed to slow down. On national television, morning programs were halted. People stepped outside their homes, many standing frozen in front of screens, shaking their heads or whispering to one another, "Illinois Papa e morto, the Pope is dead." Pope Francis was not just a religious leader. He was a symbol of change, a voice of courage in a world troubled by division. In the 12 years of his papacy since 2013, he became known as the Pope of the People, refusing to live in the Grand Papal Palace, preferring instead a simple apartment. He visited refugee camps, kissed the feet of prisoners, and did not hesitate to speak out against global injustices. His death was not merely a loss for the Catholic Church, but for a world that saw in him hope for a broader humanity. Interfaith leaders, world leaders, and ordinary citizens, everyone shared the same sense of loss. In the Vatican, flags were lowered to half-mast. The cardinals gathered. Prayers were offered. Amid the silence enveloping St. Peter's Square, there was only one thing that felt real: the world had just lost a light that could never be replaced. That morning, the sky over Rome appeared grayer than usual. As if sensing the weight in the hearts of every person, the clouds hung low over the eternal city. As the news of Pope Francis' passing spread across Italy, the atmosphere in the streets of the city grew quiet. There was no commotion, no chatter. Only faint sounds could be heard: the sigh of the wind, the recitation of prayers, and footsteps heading toward sacred places. In the Vatican, St. Peter's Square was filled with thousands of Catholics from around the world, coming to pay their last respects. Some were crying, while others stood silently, reflecting, and uniting in sorrow. Some held rosaries, others closed their eyes for a moment, hoping that the Pope who had passed might hear their prayers. For many, Pope Francis was not just a spiritual leader. He was a father, a friend, a guide who tirelessly embraced everyone, from the most marginalized to the world's rulers. "He taught us not to fear differences," said a middle-aged woman from Milan who came to Rome to honor the Pope. He was a voice for the oppressed, a light for the dark. As time passed, the flow of people continued. They came with faces full of sorrow, carrying flowers, candles, and prayers in their hands. It seemed as though all of Italy had momentarily paused to remember and celebrate the meaningful life of Pope Francis. Italian President Sergio Mattarella, in his speech, said, "We have lost a leader who taught us the meaning of love, humility, and the courage to speak for those who have no voice." The Italian government declared 3 days of national mourning, marking the deep respect for the figure who had inspired millions around the world. Pope Francis, with all his wisdom, had led the Church through the storm of global change. Amidst a divided political landscape, a migration crisis, and interfaith tensions, he remained steadfast in the moral principles he held: peace, brotherhood, and justice. The entire world, from Europe to America, from Asia to Africa, now shared in the deep loss. For, even though the world was filled with tension, Pope Francis always believed that the power of love could change anything. "He taught us to still believe in goodness in a world that can sometimes be so dark," said a man from Spain, his eyes filled with tears. As all of this unfolded, Italy, the land that had long been home to the Pope, mourned. But this grief was not only that of one country. The world felt it together, connected in deep sorrow, but also in an immeasurable sense of gratitude. Amidst the mourning that gripped Italy, a seldom-heard story began to surface. While the Catholic faithful grieved the passing of Pope Francis, a significant shift was taking place in the land of Italy. The Muslim community was experiencing rapid growth. In recent years, there has been a surge in the number of Italians embracing Islam, with the number of converts steadily rising, bringing a breath of fresh air and new hope for Muslims in the country. They come from various backgrounds, ages, and social classes. This phenomenon has spread not only in major cities like Rome and Milan, but also in smaller towns in southern Italy, which have long been known for their strong Catholic dominance. Islam teaches peace, and I feel I have found that peace within my heart, said Luca, a young man who recently converted to Islam. I was looking for something more than just religion. I was looking for inner peace, and Islam gave me that. With sparkling eyes, Luca shared how his spiritual journey had transformed the way he saw the world. This phenomenon is not just about a change of faith but also a search for meaning in a world often filled with doubt and uncertainty. Many, like Luca, have been touched by the universal values taught in Islam: peace, compassion, and brotherhood. For most converts, the decision to embrace Islam is not something that comes easily. It is a long journey driven by curiosity, spiritual seeking, and often, personal testimonies that open their eyes. The Muslim community in Italy is now growing beyond just a religious group. They are actively involved in various social, humanitarian, and even community initiatives. From food-sharing programs in impoverished areas to educational projects for underprivileged children, they play an essential role in building bridges between religious communities and creating peace amidst differences. Islam teaches us to always serve the community, said Amina, a Muslim woman from Rome who is active in various social activities. We don't just talk about religion, we talk about how to benefit others. That is part of our faith. Amina added that many who have recently embraced Islam feel that this religion gives them a place to grow, develop, and contribute positively to the community around them. Moreover, an increasing number of public figures, academics, and intellectuals in Italy are opening up to dialogue with the Muslim community. In some universities, seminars on understanding Islam and interfaith social issues have become more common, paving the way for more constructive dialogue and deeper understanding between Catholic and Muslim communities. Thanks to tireless efforts from various parties, the Muslim community is now not only accepted but respected. This change is extraordinary, said Imam Hassan al-Mansouri, a prominent figure in the Italian Muslim Council. We are witnessing the acceptance of Muslims in Italy, both socially and religiously. This is the result of dialogue and our hard work to build peace. Amid the sorrowful news from the Vatican, Italy found a glimmer of new hope in the form of greater appreciation and understanding of religious diversity. The growing presence of the Muslim community brings the message that, in this ever-changing world, peace and unity can be created even as religious and faith differences remain. While Italy continued to mourn the passing of Pope Francis, something greater was unfolding within society, a journey toward unity and mutual respect, amid an increasingly strengthening diversity. During the mourning period declared by the government, thousands of Catholics, world leaders, and religious figures from around the globe gathered in Rome to pay their last respects to the Pope. Yet, amidst the bustle and sorrow, a deeper message began to resonate in the hearts of the people: difference is not something to be feared, but rather embraced as a strength for unity. Pope Francis, despite coming from the Catholic Church, never confined his views to just one religion. On the contrary, he consistently emphasized the importance of interfaith dialogue and cooperation. One of his greatest legacies was the belief that humans, regardless of their religion or background, have the right to live in peace and mutual respect. As world leaders and Catholics gathered to remember the Pope, several prominent Muslim figures from Italy also attended the ceremony as a sign of respect. Imam Hassan al-Mansouri, known for his commitment to interfaith peace, spoke during his address: "We have lost a leader who was not only for Catholics but for the world." Pope Francis is a living example that love knows no religious boundaries. In Rome, a city that has now become a witness to extraordinary social change, Muslims and Catholics walk side by side at joint events, sharing stories, and learning from each other's cultures and traditions. This diverse Italian society, with its various religious beliefs, has found ways to honor one another, balancing ancient traditions with hopes for a more inclusive future. We feel blessed to live in a country that prioritizes the values of tolerance and peace, said Amina, a Muslim woman involved in a joint project between the Muslim and Catholic communities in Rome. This diversity is a strength. We can learn from one another, enrich each other, and make Italy a better place for all. In the discussions between Catholics and Muslims, which have been increasingly growing, many emphasize that while religious differences remain, what matters most is mutual understanding of universal human values: love, justice, and respect for life. Over time, the Italian people have come to realize that religious diversity is not a barrier but an opportunity to create a more harmonious world. Pope Francis, though no longer here to witness this change firsthand, has left behind a profound legacy: that true peace comes from the ability to overcome differences and work together for the common good. Though Italy grieves a great loss, it is also witnessing something extraordinary, a journey toward unity, where religion is not a reason to divide, but rather a reason to unite. As flowers were laid in St. Peter's Square and prayers were offered for Pope Francis, the world was also filled with new hope. Hope that what began in sorrow would continue to evolve into a journey toward broader peace and tolerance, not just in Italy, but around the world.